Welcome everyone. Um, Welcome everyone. This is uh, a focus on diversity. Um, that's not the actual title, but it is a focus, and we are um, welcoming anyone who's here. And normally, what Gloria does is ask people how they're feeling, or where they're at. Uh, so I think she's already talked to. Well, since it wasn't recorded, uh, can we begin that process? Also understanding that this is not a process where we intend to have anyone feel discomfort. If there's anything in our conversation that leads to discomfort, um, let us know, and we'll address that, because each and every thought that leads to acting behavior is important, because our total behavior is important. So, Judith, how are you today?
I am here. I have a semi-functioning brain. I will do my best.
Well, we appreciate the semi side. Thank you. Thank you. Rhonda, how are you today?
I got a slight headache. I bumped my head on the cabinet this morning that when doing Habitat and Humanity. I got a knot right there.
Oh,
It hurts.
well, take care of yourself. So, um, let us begin. I will.
How are you, Neb?
I am wonderful. I am so glad to be in the presence of reality therapy minded people. So today is a good day.
Yeah.
So I will step back and let, as they say, up in nowhere, let the presentation begin.
That's yours. That's you, Judith.
Judith, are you there?
Pardon?
That's you. You have the stage.
Oh, I have the stage? Just because I wrote the blog post, now I have to talk about it? Excuse me.
It's okay. Take your time.
So one of the things, catch my breath. This morning, when I was checking emails and that, I was also popped into Facebook, which I do every few days. And there was Sharon Bogdanovich had something from EART, the European Association for Reality Therapy. They just had their conference, and one of the presenters from Croatia had done a presentation on the quality world and how the quality, our choices in terms of the quality world can be negative, not just positive. And I was looking, I was like, yeah, that's true. And part of that is, I think, mainly comes from our basic need for power. And if we're unable to get our power need met, in terms of how we consider power within the Glasser world, which is personal power, self-control, personal responsibility, looking for ways to make a difference, to be important without infringing on other people. And I think that when that doesn't work, we still have the quality world picture. And so we then may turn to power over others, which is the other side of power that we teach within the organization. Although we teach that that's external psychology, external control psychology power, and does not work with the other basic needs. So I just thought that was really interesting. And I didn't prepare anything, so we'll just be winging it this morning. But I thought what I wanted to do when I wrote the blog post to tee up for this meeting is, how do people meet their power needs? And how does that change over time? And one of the things that I'm very aware of right now, dealing with some lingering mumble health issues, is I see myself as a recovering high achiever. What I could do even 10 years ago is not what I can accomplish these days. And if I go back to my 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, I'm like totally incompetent in comparison. So how do I continue to meet my power need when right now I can't even drive? I've not been able to drive since in January. Well, I know how to. I could. I would not. You would not want me on the road with you. I get lightheaded. No, you don't want people who are experiencing times of lightheadedness to be driving. And, so I don't drive because it's not safe for me or anybody else. So what is it that, and my world now is much more limited than it even was 6 months to a year ago. So what is it that I can do every day? What are the things, plural, that I can do every day in order to meet that power need? Because it isn't like now that I'm older, I don't have a power need, or it's less. It just means I need to be more creative in terms of how I meet it. I need to look for different quality world pictures that I can match at this point in time and see how, and then the other side of that is, and it's one of the things that I see when I'm talking to people is really difficult. This is my quality world picture of how I meet my power need, or these are my top 5. I can't do those top 5 anymore. How do I let go of those top 5? Because those top 5 aren't the only quality world pictures that I have to meet my power need. So what other pictures can I find that will meet my power need? So that's also true in terms of love and belonging. We have primary people, but they're not the only people in our quality world. So if somebody dies or moves away, kind of thing, then who else do we have? How else can we bring, or where else can we go to find new people to bring into our quality world? What kinds of things can I do now that would meet my power need that that I've not done for a while? So for me, one of the things that I do, because I'm an author, I have books out there, is I know I can write blog posts. So that's one of the ways that I've been meeting my power need, is I do a monthly blog post to the Glasser Institute for Choice Theory US website. And then I have another blog, Romancing the Genres, which is international group blog, and I blog there on the first Friday of the month. And so I do have things that I can do, and so it's really important to focus on what I can do to meet my need instead of what I can't do, because if I stay focused on what isn't working, that's when I and others can make poor choices. So part of what I wanted to do today is just have people chime in terms of how do they meet? How do you meet? Because I'm looking at the four. How do you meet your power need? And how is that different from maybe how you met at 5, 10, 20 years or so ago? So does anyone want to volunteer, or do you want me to call on you? There's Neb, and he's not muted. He's going to share.
As you were presenting that, I was thinking about picturing, repicturing, auto picturing, reframing, collage, all of those things. You began with the statement about the possibility of the presentation that negative pictures, or I guess the word was negative pictures could be used to be need fulfilling. And I thought about that in terms of human behavior. Many times we focus on human behavior presenting as positive from our perspective, and we evaluate that behavior as negative if it doesn't fit either socially, or hopefully reality therapists and choice theorists don't do this, but we do. I mean, that a judgment about that behavior, because even in the early days when we studied reality therapy, there was this period unacceptable. The person makes a judgment as if that behavior was not positive. Anyway, so you go to pictures. Are there negative, need fulfilling pictures in our picture world? Maybe so. Maybe definitely so. Maybe what we have not done. I remember Diane Gosson had this chart where she would have 4 boxes in the chart, and one of the boxes would be negative. It was planning. So you plan 3 positive ways to fulfill your need and a negative way, because she presented that at some point when we ran out of positive ways to fulfill our need, we would go to a negative way. And so if you put it on the table, then the person and you could have that discussion, and it wasn't something that just happened to be the fortune show up. So I was thinking also, and then I'll stop here and let someone else go, that the concept of the collage, when we think about pictures. So did we take a little piece from this picture and a piece from that picture and put together a new picture? Because in my writing about the picture world, it is that auto picturing is based on the skills and abilities and perceptions we have. Repicturing is about many times working to change that picture, and the collage is about saying this was good in that picture, this was good in that picture. Good not in terms of a value judgment, but good for need fulfillment. And so I put those together and come up with a new picture, which is need fulfillment. I'll stop there.
Yeah, and I think that's very true. I mean, that's the creative process in the behavior system, is you're finding something. And I was talking to a gentleman last night who works with migrants, children that are immigrants, not migrants, immigrant children in the school system where he's employed. And we were talking about if you being here in the United States has some pluses. However, they've left all that they've known behind. And so there's a huge loss. And so places where they were getting their needs met, and then since this month, we're talking about power. So if they were getting their power need met in their country of origin, they may not, probably are not able to get that need met in the same way here. Now what? Because it isn't that they don't have the need. And we were talking about, we just went to safety. You know, if you try these different things to feel safe and they don't work, and then as you're saying, Neb, you do something and you get a gun, and now you feel safe because you've got a gun and they don't. Now the gun is in your quality world because it's need satisfying. And so, you know, or the drugs or the alcohol, because I don't want to be in pain anymore. And so you take drugs or drink alcohol and you're not in pain. And that's how these things that we see as negative make their way into the quality world. And so if we are able to support people in finding, you know, and this is judgment, but I'm just going to judge here, more positive ways of meeting their needs, they're not going to be needing guns or drugs. You know, it's simple, but the other thing we talked about is simple is not always easy. And so that's, you know, that's, yeah. So Rhonda.
I agree, simple is not always easy. And piggyback off what Neb said about putting things together, it's like a jigsaw puzzle. You get the old pieces and the new pieces and you put them together and you have a new quality world.
Yes.
And you're always going to have, to me, you have to bring some of that old past to balance out the new, you know, to create something new. And it's, you know, like I said, putting jigsaw puzzle, the pieces to get, and the old piece got to fit with that new piece to make the new quality world. And way I tried to strive for power, used to, I didn't do this, but now I do a lot of volunteering. But 5 years ago, I would never thought of that. And I have come out of my comfort zone in doing volunteering, and that is giving me a sense of power when I do that.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
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 Yeah.
And volunteering is very important. And in addition to you feeling better, more powerful when you volunteer, you are also lowering the, or not lowering, what is the word? Anyway, the aging process slows down and the little brain cells perk up. So volunteering, being in service to others, is one of the things that the people who study aging brains and aging bodies say is very, very helpful to, it may not send it very far backwards, but at least slows down the forward progress, which at my point in life, I think slowing it down is a good thing. Yeah. You're on mute, Rhonda.
I'm on. I find also when you're doing the volunteering, not only do I get a sense of power, but it's meeting other needs too along the way.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah.
which,
As
like you
long as
said,
they
it
didn't
ebbs
want
and
me to go
flows.
on a roller coaster with them, I think I could figure out some fun. I mean, there's some things that I'm sure you all know. People say, "Oh, that was so much fun," and I just go, "No." It's like, no, it's not fun. What's wrong with you? So I don't know if Gloria is not with us, and just as she
No,
is.
I'm,
So
I'm
Gloria,
here.
how
I'm
are
about to
you
start
meeting
the
your
car.
power need?
So, I think that what's really interesting is when I think I was caught up thinking about my quality world pictures and the pictures that I have for myself, the pictures I had when I was a kid and the picture I have now. Of course, I wasn't aware of choice theory when I was younger, when I was a kid, but I did have images of myself. And when I was a kid, I thought I wanted to be a medical doctor, and of course that didn't happen. But then I still, and the purpose of wanting to be a medical doctor was to help people. And so I found a way to do that without having to go to medical school. So I'm still, that quality world picture is still being met, right? Is somehow, I guess, over the course of my life, I switched to the actual image from a person in a white coat or a person who was whatever, to a person who's simply helping people, which really, really satisfies my need for power. And I think not in a negative way, because I know there are people who have a really high need for power, who go into the helping profession so that they can lord that power over other people. And mine is more like power with, um, when I use it in the helping profession versus power over. But it also satisfies my need, my power within need, right? But I thought about, while I was listening to you all, the idea that how your need for power is impacted by how you experience things with other people, right? And how other people interpret what it is that you do. I had somebody say to me the other day that I have a powerful presence, right? Because I also had somebody a couple of days before that said that they were intimidated by, all the letters behind my name. And so I wonder how our images of ourselves, or our quality world pictures, are impacted by the experiences that we have with other people.
That's a good question. Ned, do you want to answer it first?
Oh, of course. Well, however you wish. I was listening in terms of, and trying to determine for me what I had a picture of for my power need. And at first I thought, oh, well, power needs are based on employment. I don't have a job. Power needs are based on organizational membership. That is part of it. The other part is, for me, when I break it down to its bare necessity, my power need is met through the acquisition of information.
Okay.
The more I know, the more powerful I feel. Now, what I do with that information varies. Sometimes it is through mentorship, sometimes it's through volunteering, sometimes it's through writing, but the acquisition of information in and of itself is need fulfilling for my power need.
And sometimes you do really great presentations here. I still tell
Thank you so
people to
much.
go listen to the April, how many years ago, epigenetics. That was just super awesome.
Well, thank you so much.
Yes, you should
That
be
meets-
out there.
that
You
meets
should
my
be out
power
there
need as
teaching
well.
that everywhere, Neb.
See, praise meets your power need as well. Thank you.
So Rhonda, what about you?
With other people, it affects other people, way I do my power needs. They sometimes they think I'm like a robot, I guess you would call it, because I'm always like on Facebook, I'll see somebody's post and I say, "Oh, that's outstanding," or something, you know, a compliment or something. And they thought I was a robot. Every time I would post something to their page, they said, "She can't be for real. She's not for real." But that's the way I was brought up, to always show kindness to everybody, and you know, and they thought I was a robot. And I said, "No, that's just the way that's me, you know, and that's just the way I am, and that's the way I was brought up, and some of that goes with my power needs and all." Oh,
Do you see yourself as having a fairly high power need or just sort of an average power need?
I would think it would be about average. I don't think high.
Okay.
I don't want no power over nobody. I like power within myself, not over anybody.
Yeah. And I have a, I was going to say fairly high. I have a, just be out there, Judith. You have a high power need. Just let it hang out there. I always have. And I don't always have to be number one. But I was in a group with, I think there were like 100 people. And we were supposed to rank ourselves. Oh, I was in the top 10. I did not have to, I was not jostling for the first place. I was totally okay with being in the top 10. It would not have been okay with me to have been in the middle or at the other end. And what I have found is that things that I'm very passionate about, people often see me as angry. And so that has been something I've dealt with for a very long time, because I'm not angry, but I am passionate about this, and I know my mind, kind of thing. I know what I'm talking about. So one of the things that's important to me is being heard. And I think as I grow older, the being heard becomes even more important to me, because I'm aware that older people in the culture in the United States are not revered for the most part, and therefore they're dismissed more. And people with high power needs don't deal well with being dismissed. Or at least I, who have a high power need, don't deal well with being dismissed. So that's one of the reasons, finding new ways. And Gloria, I think you're correct. People with the high power need go into some of the helping professions in order, because that's sort of the power over. But I see that in teachers also. They, you know, that's their classroom and they'll run it their way, and the kids will do what they want, how they want it, and when they want it, instead of it being a more collaborative process where the students own part of the classroom process. And so, you know, if you have a class of 20 people and the teacher, you have 21 quality worlds. you have 120, 105 basic needs, all needing to be met in that hour. And if you understand choice theory and you can use reality therapy and you share the power, you are actually more empowered. And so that's something that I have learned over the years, is when I share my power need, when I share my power, quote unquote, then I actually become more powerful because more people stay engaged. And it's really difficult to satisfy your power need if, there's nobody around you, if you're in isolation. And it isn't that you can't still go, I did a good job. But even though I did a good job, there are times when it is useful to have somebody say, yes, you did. And when part of the power need is met by having people ask you for information, come to you for advice, well, if nobody's coming and asking you anything, if nobody's there to listen to you, then two of the important aspects of meeting your power need are lost if there's nobody around you. Doesn't mean you can't still train to do the marathon and those kinds of things, but so anybody else have anything to add?
I got something. Yeah, that's like a child being brought up and their parents don't never praise them or say, oh, you've done a good job of it, even though it might not be nothing, just give them that little push, it affects their self-esteem when they don't have that praise. And at an early age, they're learning what their power needs are, trying to learn their power needs. And if they're not praised, they're not going to learn nothing. They're going to be isolated and not want to be around nobody.
Yep. And it starts even when they're little. Gloria was talking at some point, at some place where I was hearing her say something about even little babies you can see the needs with infants. It isn't that they have to be older. So, and Bill talks about, these are genetically encoded. And I know he said that's what he believes. But when he was talking about that, I just went back through my own life and looked at how true are these running? Where are these important? When I made major decisions in my life, why did I make the choice that I did? And every place that I looked in terms of my own self-assessment, in terms of my needs profile, I saw where my needs for power, fun, and freedom, actually power and freedom, and then fun. And then I have a need for love more than belonging. I don't like being in groups of people. I don't, and I never have. That's not just now. And survival is probably my lowest. Doesn't mean I don't have one. But when I made decisions in my life, power, freedom, and then fun. I never stayed in a job that I didn't enjoy. I never stayed in a job where I was micromanaged. But of course, if I was being micromanaged, there was no joy. So, So I have an eclectic work background.
Mhm.
But the jobs that I had that I stayed in 30 years, basically, they were challenging at times, but they were fun. And I had all the autonomy I could ever want. And so I was very blessed, but I never stayed in a job for retirement benefits. And some people I worked with, they stayed working for 30 years for the state of Oregon in order to get that retirement. And they were miserable, probably 25 of those 30 years. And you saw them gaining weight, drinking. I mean, those were the things I could see, and who knows what else they were doing, but they were not happy. And I'm like, oh no, I'm out of here.
Can I ask you, I was really interested in this thing about the baby, you know. We talk about babies having survival needs, but
Mhm.
their power needs, are we also looking at babies from their perspective as controlling the world around them? So therefore they're meeting their power needs. So they don't necessarily, they figure out what to do to call us to come to them.
But also their love and belonging need.
Mhm.
I did 30 years in domestic and international adoption.
Mhm.
And, adopting kids from India and Vietnam, where even if they were abandoned in the orphanages, even if they didn't have a lot, they were loved, they were held, they were talked to. Versus if you went to Romania or Bulgaria or Russia, you also had to deal with fetal alcohol syndrome, but you would have babies 3 in a crib, nobody talking to them, fed on a schedule. So if they were hungry or in pain or whatever, they were totally ignored until it was time to go and do something at that crib. And I always told those families, if you have any choice at all, choose the middle baby. Because that little baby had somebody here and somebody here on both sides. And that didn't mean they weren't going to have problems because of the rest of the deprivation, but that sense of no love and belonging, no power, no fun, no freedom, because they were tightly swaddled too. And survival needs were being met at the bare minimum. So, I mean, that's, yeah. So I totally agree that these, at birth, they have, and they use a variety of things. Some babies cry, some babies do more gurgling, some babies do more smiling, but if whatever works to get somebody's attention. That if you went the first 6 months to a year of your life, that no matter what you did, you got nobody's attention. Yeah.
So now, would those responses that Judith just mentioned, like smiling and cooing and communicating with the adults, the caregivers in their lives, be indicators of a baby's getting their power need met? From your perspective, because I was thinking about, like, of course, the things that they do that are instinctive, is that one physiological need they're trying to meet is survival. So most of those things are done. Most of the things babies do is because of survival. But the others, I'm seeing a connection to the. But I'm wondering if what Judith just listed as the things that babies do might be perceived as indicators of their getting their power need. It sounds more that in conjunction with love and belonging and some of the others fun, but do you think that it might be an indicator of getting their power need? Because they made it happen.
Yeah, I think that if we look at the foundation or the basic understanding that these needs are genetically encoded, then the babies also are attempting to get those needs met and form those pictures in their picture world.
Yeah.
And if they are ignored, then they have to come up with something else, just like we do. That creativity, that repicturing, that reframing of what is love. I thought it was interesting that you talked about the middle baby. So therefore, that middle child may then perceive love and belonging or caring, however you want to frame it, as being in contact with one on the right and one on the left. And so the other two have to figure that they are getting something as well if they're in touch with someone. But this, in terms of power, I think at least my perception or sense is that they expect a response, however it is. As you said, a smile, a gurgle, or crying. If they can get someone to respond to any of that, and I think that you have children who grow up and maybe, and I'm not sure about this, and reframe a need out of their life because it hasn't been fulfilled. If the scheduled babies, how do you reframe that out until such time as you get in an environment where, say, in the adoptive situation, you have to relearn loving. You have to relearn that you can cause the world to respond to you. I don't know how long you followed the children once they were adopted, and I'm sure different homes had different outcomes with children, because just as we understand that the environment and its impact on the needs is significant as well.
I found some of those kids, they still stay in touch with me, and they're through college and they were adopted babies. So I just, I think that we have, as what in our world we consider the severest punishment beside death kind of thing, is isolation. And so that's why if you have the middle baby does not experience isolation. Both sides. The other two on the other sides, they don't experience full isolation, but they don't have the same sense. But remember, we talk about the first thing we have to do is survive. And then Bill said, and the way we survive best is by gathering together to do the hunt or the farming or the whatever. So that's how he talked about how the needs developed. First survival, but then love and belonging, and then power, because then you looked at who you had in your clan and you said, who's the best hunter? Who's the best tanner of the hide? Who's the best gatherer of the berries or the nuts or whatever? And then that's where power came. And then freedom, they need to have the ability to move around and do things. But fun was learning. How the children learn the different tasks within the clan was through play or fun. And that's what he said. That's how he said these needs developed. And so if you take that and you look at the babies, we have failure to thrive, both for infants, but also for adults. So how can you have failure to thrive when food is available? Because there's no human contact. And so that's why I, in my years of doing, I'm like, at least love and belonging for some people, not everybody, because that's where we get the needs profile. But I was talking about also in that blog post, because I live in Portland, Oregon, and you know, I don't have to go very far before I can see Mount St. Helens. And Mount St. Helens erupted in 1980-81 when I was still living here, actually here in this house. And there were the volcanologists, is that the right term? I think so. The people that study volcanoes. They knew it was going to erupt. They had all the signs. Everything was saying, she's going to blow. They put warnings out all over to people, get away. There was an older gentleman, I think he was in his 80s, who'd lived in a cabin on Mount St. Helens decades. People went up, they pled with him to leave, and he said no. But you'll die. If you know, you won't, I don't care. This is my home. I'm not leaving. Well, you know, he did die in the explosion. Another one was a young man in his 20s who was studying volcanoes. And he had this place not far from the rim. And they said, you have to abandon your post. And he said, no, I will stay here and keep submitting information as long as I can. And he died. And his family said, because they were interviewed, wasn't that on? They said he died doing what he loved. They did not see it. It wasn't that they were like, oh, yay, he's gone or anything. But they were, he was doing something he loved. And they did not see that he had died in vain because he did not leave. And so I look at, so here's survival. People say, oh, no, people will, no, people all the time do things. So if you just look at the world around you, studying the basic needs, then you know, it's like, okay, yeah, I see how people are making these decisions. And if you understand the basic needs, especially if you know any of them and can talk to any of them, you have an idea of what their needs profile is, just based on what's important to them and what they choose to do and how they handle things. And I think that's the power of knowing choice theory, because it is an explanation of how and why we behave. And so any therapeutic model out there, you can assess it using choice theory, and you can determine what isn't working for certain patients. Because one of the things that I talk about when I'm teaching is we never say the problem is the client or the new language I'm still in the process of learning from Gloria. The friends that come in to our office or the students who are in our classroom. It's not their problem. There's something, there's needs that are not getting met. So it isn't that they failed. It isn't necessarily that we failed, because we know this. We know how to approach things, how to solve the problem so that everyone can be successful in what they want to do.
I think that's a fantastic conclusion. Our time is up. You've been wonderful. I appreciate you. Anyone else have a last word before we close? Having heard none, thank you all, and we will see you next month.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Nev, for holding this down.
Thank you.
Awesome job, you and Judith and Rhonda. I'll see you all next month.
Bye.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.